Welcome to our live session of Prepper Talk Radio. I've got Scott, Shane, and myself, Paris, in the house. We're excited to come to you live on YouTube and on Facebook. And for those of you who are listening on the replay or on our podcast, welcome. We're glad you're listening. We're glad you're with us. Today's episode, we're going to be talking about, I think it's kind of interesting because it's the end of the year. And so we're going to be talking about Teotwawki. And so for those of you who know what that is, it's the end of the world as we know it. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that today. But before we do, let's jump into our YouTube channel contest. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, I think we're 750 almost. So we're really close. Get us an extra 250 in the next month or so we can run this contest and get you guys a Jace Medical Jace case. And this is a full supply of antibiotics tailored to you. So there's some questions that you answer at jacemedical.com. And you go through the questions, make sure your health is in proper order, and then they will give you antibiotics for the most common situations that you might come across or might need antibiotics for. And it's pretty amazing kit. If you use the code Prepper Talk, you'll get $10 off. So even if you don't win the case, go ahead and go pick one up. Also, Shane has offered a 5-ounce silver bar for those that want to win that 5-ounce silver bar. That's an opportunity there as well. So we have 2 opportunities to win. Once we hit 1,000 subscribers, you got to be a YouTube subscriber and in our Facebook group, which is Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance, which you can find easily by going to our Prepper Talk Radio page and then going to more and then going to groups and then going into Emergency Prep and Self-Reliance on there. So Teotwawki, 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 the end of the world as we know it. That's an acronym that's pretty familiar and famous amongst preppers and doomsdayers and other things. So we're going to talk a little bit about how to prepare for the end of the world as we know it. And we'd like to welcome all those who are joining us now on the live. Thanks for being with us.
As well as theories, right? As well as what do we think is going to happen, or what is but here's the crazy thing: Teotwawki's already happened. Everyone's always talking about the new norm.
Mm-hmm.
The world as we knew it is gone.
Yeah,
right?
That's
and it's
true
been replaced with this crazy progressive movement. It's been replaced with social distancing. It's been replaced with affordable fuels and
sustainable energy
and simplified logistics with extremely fragile, terrible replicas of everything.
With AI, I mean, it's the end of the world as we know it. It happens, I wouldn't say daily, but as long as you notice something in your life that changed, it wasn't the same the day before, that you probably didn't have anything to do with or have any control over. That is a big change. It can be a big change or it can be a small change. And I consider that the end of the world as we know it. I think it's happening all the time. But yes, there will be larger events when that others may consider. Yeah, that was the big event right there. That's still yet to come. But like you say, Scott, it's already happened. Continues to happen.
What's funny is now everyone has to, or they're asking everyone to register their gardens with the federal government. Have you seen that thing?
Mm-hmm.
And they're asking,
is that in the United States?
In the United States.
Yeah, it's just a voluntary thing.
It's a voluntary thing. It's required for commercial gardeners, but it's not required for home gardens. But yet they're still asking all the home gardeners to
register your garden.
It's ridiculous.
Everything's just getting weirder and weirder.
Well, like you said, Scott, they're calling it the new normal. They're trying to make everything. This is just normal. It's not normal, but it is because we're telling you it is. Right. The bigger the lie, the easier it is to fool the people. Right. The easier it is to accept it, as long as it's repeated over and over again. So I guess if a tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? So if you don't notice the world changing, is it really changing?
Well, I think what we're heading towards is more chaos and more catastrophe between, that movement and the everyday American, because the everyday American is fed up. I, as a father, husband, and man in America, I'm absolutely fed up. The system that by all means has always been bad. It goes back to the phrase, we're the government. Hi. if you don't like our problems, you'll hate our solutions, right? Like they don't solve things. And I think I'm such a libertarian in that mindset, because I'm like, let us take care of it. Let us fix the problems. Let us deal with it. Because when the government deals with it, it removes the accountability and increases the cost. And it's like more problems are created as a result. I don't care who or what you are. Like, nothing has ever gotten better when the government's gotten in to help improve the situation.
Yeah, there's nothing more permanent than a temporary government program, right?
Right. And it's like,
mankind was meant to progress and to grow and to seek after the greater challenge, or like the next thing. That's how we were built. Like we kind of settle in from time to time to a status quo, and then we're like, you know what, we're bored with this. Let's go grow. Let's go do more. And so that capacity for more is a good thing in many ways, because it gives us the innovations and the insights that we need to kind of progress and grow. And when we have the government telling you what to do, regulating you to death, with all these things, then you're like, what are you supposed to do? I mean, our country was founded on agency, on the ability for the average person to rise up and become whatever he wanted to become through a democratic republic. I mean, literally, the average guy in the beginning of America could become a congressman or become a senator. I mean, is it possible today? Sure, but it's really hard, because you got to be a career guy in order to get anywhere, or have millions and millions of dollars to have any hope. And so, as the government of the United States changes, it started as, I hate people when they say our democracy. I'm like, no, it's a democratic republic, because democracy is a temporary government that's between either a constitutional republic, democratic republic, and or a tyranny or some other kind of oligarchy. And so democracy is that when, it's like two wolves and a chicken, and, deciding what's for lunch. That's what a democracy is. And that's where we're headed. And so the end of the world as we know it is like, wait a minute, this whole Marxist movement, this leftist Marxist movement, and there's some really good arguments that they can make, and we should pay attention. But they're taking it so far, it's like, dude, that's too far.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, one of the events that I wrote down on my list here is, the world changed dramatically once, Bitcoin and the cryptos really started to come on the scene, right? And then the world changed dramatically when FTX collapsed. And it's going to continue to change, and who knows what's going to happen next? Who's going to go down next? Binance probably next, if you ask me. But things are constantly changing. I never got into the crypto thing, but I am interested as heck in this collapse and what it's doing to our economy and all the ramifications of everything else. I'm soaking this up like crazy, and it has changed my world. I mean, my view of the world has absolutely changed when FTX collapsed. Like, so many of my suspicions were confirmed correct. With cryptos. Guys know I don't care for these. Well,
it's funny.
I'll use stronger language than that.
I've got so many friends, like we all do, that are like, oh man, if you're not in this coin, you need to get into it. Oh, if you're not in this coin, you need to get into it. I'm like, is it real? They're like, well, yeah, it's based on this. And I'm like, no, but is it tangible? Well, yeah, it's digitally tangible. I'm like,
well, it's funny because they represent a lot of these cryptos with actual gold or silver coins. You see, when they show a picture of it, they'll say that it's a Bitcoin coin, actual coin. Well, when do I get my Bitcoin? You don't. You write the numbers down, right? It's not an actual gold coin, which they're trying to associate that with it. But yeah, absolutely.
It's funny because it's like, what do I really think is going to happen? Like, yeah, are we going to have a financial collapse? Duh. Are we going to have disease and pestilence? Duh. I look at the Teotwawki. That's all. Like, everything that's going to happen that's biblical. And the point of it is this is all to destroy the wicked when that goes down. Like, that's the big Teotwawki, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, this whole scientific Big Bang group, what they don't realize is that, like, everyone that subscribes to this whole Big Bang, they're not realizing it's actually going the other way. Like, there's going to be an absolute moment when all the wicked is just and taken out. It's the opposite of the Big Bang. It's the big boom, the big implosion, collapse, like gone. And the world is going to be left to simplified solutions and peace, right? We will have to work together. We will need to work together. We'll want to work together.
Yeah, I think that's the underlying assumption of those who kind of created this. It's not a movement; it's just I don't know what to call it, but it is when things reset. Yes, it will be like it used to be. The world with the earth without power, without governments. It'll be tribal, and that's kind of the feeling I get with maybe the root of the end of the world as we know it. I don't know that I necessarily subscribe to that because, like we're talking about, this is happening in phases. The world is collapsing, the country is collapsing in phases, and it's
with the purpose of pushing it towards a new one world government.
Yes, right? It is intentional, and it's, again, we talk about the frog in the pot of boiling water all too often, right? That's exactly, in my view, how this is happening.
Yeah, we've got all kinds of things like a perfect storm coming at us. We've got the governments where so many people now are losing so much confidence in the government, and the country and our rights as citizens. Like, does voting even? I'm sorry, I shouldn't even said that out loud. YouTube will probably kick us off for me having saying any of that. But
hey,
we got
the V word.
Yeah, what's going on with, let's have we have to edit that out so that YouTube doesn't kick us off. But I mean, think about what's going on in Arizona right now with Kerry Lake and the whole situation that's going on there. And we got, the rest of we got this whole economic collapse with VTX and all the counterfeit, the deception that's just being revealed. We got Twitter right now coming out with the Twitter files that are being dropped every couple of days, where we're finding out how the government actually colluded with media outlets like Twitter to stop certain things from coming forth and for having certain knowledge. It's like, wait a minute, if an organization does it, that's one thing, but when your government backs it up and does it and uses those platforms to do the same thing, it's like, now we're in a whole another world of situations. So we've got the stock market that's going wild right now. Like, is it ever going to come back? Who knows, right? So everybody says, well, in 2023, I mean, we got the Fed coming out with, we're going to raise interest rates again and again and again and again. Everybody's like, mortgages are going to be 10% again, like they were in the 70s or 12%. Who knows? But the reality is all of this is some perfect storm to get us all into a place of chaos and get us all into a place of anxiety and panic. And when we're in those places, we can't think clearly, we can't understand clearly. And that's why, for me anyways, it's so important for me to be grounded in the good word of God, be grounded in prayer, and be grounded with good people like you two guys and the community we're creating, so that we can keep each other sane as this whole world just kind of spirals down. And it's all on purpose. It's definitely on purpose. So I think we need to be aware of what's going on, but not be freaked out like the sky is falling and running around like Chicken Little, but also, recognizing that, hey, we know what's coming. Let's get ready for it. Let's be prepared for it. Yep. And then let's help as many people come as possible, because we're not going to, we already did this in one of our episodes. You can't save everybody, but let's try to save as many people as we can.
Most people don't want to be saved either, right? According to what we believe is saved, right? But, like you said, Paris, watching for these events or being aware what that event could be, it's not necessarily, it may not change our world, right? Because if we're aware and we're prepared and we're waiting for it, we're actually maybe even looking forward to it, right? Like the financial collapse. I'm looking forward to it. Bring it down. There's no way to fix this system unless it collapses. That's where it's got to start. So again, if the tree falls in the woods, does it make a sound? When the financial system collapses and you're prepared, it can be a good thing. It can make you stronger instead of weaker. And there's, again, anti-fragility. We love that word, right? We love that concept.
It goes to the wise man builds his house upon the rock. Right.
Expecting the winds and the rains.
If every rock tossed into a pond creates a ripple, that creates an effect that if you're floating on the pond, you're going to feel. But if you're built on a foundation off the pond, on a solid foundation, you're going to be okay. But if you're on the beach in the sand, when it's no longer a pebble and it's a rock or a boulder dropped into that pond, your foundation's gone. Your home is gone. And that's what we're trying to create, is resilience against those things. A lot of people don't realize that their house is on the sand right now. And by building a preparedness, life-centered focus around God and family, that you're now creating a platform of maybe now you're building on pylons that are on rock,
driven
right?
down deep
And
into
you're not going to be just beaten down by that storm that's coming, whatever that storm is, whether it is the end of the world as we know it or the end of your world as you know it. What if your Teotwawki moment is the end of your world, not ours? So Teotwawki, right? The end of your world as you know it.
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right there.
If you lose a job, if you lose your legs, if you lose an arm, if you lose an ability, if you're dealing with cancer treatments, like that can be completely life-changing, life-altering experience. If you lose a loved one in your home, those will change so many factors about your life. Will you survive that? Or are you fragile? Are you too fragile to survive that?
Yeah, Backroads has I like his comment here. You know, we each draw our own line in the sand. At least we hope we do. We know we need to know what that line in the sand is for us. But what do? Do we just, like you say, do we just back up, draw a different line because of whatever the reason might be? It's too scary. You know, we talked a little bit about this, I think, in a previous 45 minutes. But it's you know, what do we do at that point? When our world changes around us, do we just mold or do we stand up and what necessitates that? Is there a necessity to stand up? I think ultimately those of us who are Christian, we know what the end is going to be. We know who wins this battle, right? But what do we do in the meantime, right? Go ahead with that comment, Scott.
Well, it goes back to what I was saying, is like be diversified in food, gold, silver, you know, land paid for. And then he said, White Outdoor says it will be a slow drop off. It goes back to your point about the frog in the water. Doesn't even realize it's boiling until it's too late.
I think it's one of the big things that is the left is doing, not the left, but like the enemy of truth, is they're redefining things and gaslighting us. And one of the things we can do as preppers or as people who are wanting to really know what the reality is to really figure out what's true. And the things that it's just ridiculous when you hear the government and the media, you watch the different speeches that are giving, and you just think to yourself, there's something, if when you watch what they're saying, something inside of you says that's off. It probably is off. And so that's a clue not to give up and just say, okay, whatever, but to say, you know what, I need to go research this. I need to go figure out what's really true. I mean, we like the biggest documentary of our time over the last year anyways, was the Matt Walsh's What is a Woman? I mean, people can't even define what a male is, what's a male and what's a female anymore, seems like. And that we did a whole podcast on masculinity and the reality of being a man and stepping up and taking responsibility. And that's a huge thing that's they're really focusing on getting us to the end of the world as we know it, is creating an environment whereby we won't stand up and we won't fight because we're so subdued and we're so just willing to turn over and give over our rights. Oh, please keep me safe. Please keep me safe. Just don't hurt me. I'll do whatever. I'll give up all my freedoms just to be safe. And that's just not. And it is like I think Backroads is talking about the different tribalisms that whole group think is really coming to. When they say this, we don't necessarily agree that there's going to be an actual zombie apocalypse. However, when people get into groupthink, they certainly act like zombies, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was also thinking the things that happen in my life. I'm in a position to where when something happens, it makes me stronger, right? It's not chipping away at my fragility. I'm not being worn down. I'm becoming more stubborn. I'm being more pig-headed and fighting against it, right? Because that's the opposite, I think, of what they, like you say, Parrish, you said the left, and it is, in my opinion, it is the left. I mean, it's two heads of the same coin, two wings of the same bird, right? But that anti-fragility keeps coming back into my mind. Is what anti-fragility really is those things that would make you weaker actually contribute to you becoming stronger. So in the meantime, I've had the question asked to me, Shane, you're pretty intense in what you believe and what you do here. Do you think that hurts you now? Does that hurt you in your job? Does that affect your relationships, whatever? And I had to be honest. I said, yeah, I think it absolutely does. It can be stressful to relationships, and it can maybe hold me back from being able to earn a better income. I don't know, but I believe I found a balance. And when the storms come, when the world changes yet again, I believe I'll be stronger for it. And that's my goal, is to find those little things that, okay, I see this is coming. I see it off the distance. They're telling us that a new digital currency is coming. They've already thrown it out there to be tested, right? They're telling us that there's going to be another pandemic that's coming, right? Like, okay, what do I do so that when that happens, it makes me stronger, and I think next week we're going to be talking about some of our standard operating procedures and stuff and goals and stuff. So maybe we'll get more about it, talking about that then.
Well, I remember the book I read this year. One of the books I read this year was The Changing World Order by Ray Dalio. Mm-hmm. He was he had the number one hedge fund. He was a hedge fund manager. So he knows what he's talking about. He knows what he sees on the horizon. He did a study, not of a micro level of economic cycles, but he did a macro level economic cycle study where he went back like 1,000 years or something like that. I think he had 1,500 years. He went all the way back 1,500 years to do it, but his real main focus was in the last 5, maybe 600 years, and the cycles of how world currencies and world reserve currencies have risen to power and then fallen out of power. And he recognized 6 cycles in this process. And he has said in that book, he was very clear. He says, the United States right now is the world reserve currency. We are the world power. America with the dollar is the world reserve currency, and America is the world power because we can print that. We're in control of the dollar. However, he also says that as these cycles, the first cycle is when a new economy is founded, it's always founded in gold and silver and precious metals. Then there's like a move towards, hey, we can't carry this, so we need to create notes toward it. And then it's notes backed. And then it's like, okay, well, we can't have notes all the time, so let's get into a fiat currency. And then step by step 4, everybody's like, oh, we have all this debt. We can borrow, we can buy, we're so wealthy, we can never want. And so we get into this huge amount of spending and consumerism. And by step 5, we're like, it starts to implode. And by step 6, we're having a civil war. And so the reality is that he recognized in his book that the Americans are like, we're late step 5, early step 6, where that's the phase where we're overburdened with debt. We have the bubble is too big for us to keep growing it. And either we have to make serious policy changes, or there's going to be some kind of kinetic event. And I think he mentioned 4 different ways to get out of it, but almost invariably there's some kinetic events, which is some kind of civil war, some kind of result of that. And so it not only does his book from one of the world's leading economists teach us what's coming, so also does the Bible line up exactly with some of the things he's saying about the collapse. And so to me, it was like, thank you. Maybe somebody doesn't want to, maybe people get tripped up because it's the Bible, oh, those Christians, whatever. It's fine. You can't deny what this guy did, who is a world-renowned economist and hedge fund manager, that he doesn't have some insights at least. Maybe he doesn't predict it exactly. Maybe he's still kind of like got a couple things off, but by golly, the cycles are real and they happen, and they have happened for hundreds of years. You just can't get out of it. And so is the end of the world as we know it coming? Yes. What is that going to look like? I don't know yet, but it doesn't necessarily look good based on what the Bible is telling us and based on what some of these civil war potentials are going to happen.
Well, of course, I think what you pointed out to me that came to my mind is that this is a normal event. The world changing is something that's happened regularly for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. Change is the only constant, right? So that's true. Maybe we shouldn't be putting so much attention into this particular topic, right? Because it should be something that we're able to adapt to and grow. And Backroads used the word law-abiding here, and I've really come to hate that word, right? I mean, you look at, I think it was Thomas Jefferson that said, when tyranny becomes law, rebellion becomes duty, something like that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I have to say, we've been there for a while. Obviously, I'm gonna obey the speed limit, those types of things, right? And anything that's on par with Scripture as well, obviously. And kind of like we talked in our last episode about being the gray man. Some things you just kind of have to bend over. And if someone, if a cop comes to your door, hey, I want to search your car, get out. You got to decide beforehand what you're going to do for some of these things, right?
What
to be law abiding. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, we have to be stronger than we are. When we look at what's happening financially, we look at what China's doing. We look at the social credit system, the social scoring systems that they're doing. That's coming our way. The World Economic Forum has told us it's coming our way. How do we operate outside of it? How do we build a stronger lifestyle, a stronghold of liberty in our own country, in our own homes, right? We need to be teaching our children liberty at all costs. We need to be standing up. Like, we're a small voice, Prepper Talk Radio. We're a very tiny voice, but there are people who are listening, and if they start sharing the voice as well, their voice, our voice. If you're not ready to say it yourself, but you agree with what we're saying, please share these videos. Put it on in your social network. Put it amongst the people that you feel need to hear it, because the only thing that's going to stop wickedness from happening is good men standing up. Backroads has mentioned a couple times that if we don't stand up together, it's all going to just keep rolling, and really it is. I mean, if you look at the Civil War, the Revolutionary War, it only took 3% of the people to say that's enough, I've had it, to make the change and create one of the greatest countries that has ever been on this earth, right? Because it was so focused on liberty and God. And try to crush that if you will. You've got to focus on doing what's right and standing up for truth. The end of the world as we know it, we've just got to change things. We've got to fix our own lives and be accountable to ourselves and accountable to God to fix our lives so that we can withstand whatever's coming. Because He'll give you guidance. I mean, all of us have been on this preparedness road in different ways and at different times, doing different things, focusing on different things because of what was important to us.
And along that same line, we are responsible for every decision we make. And when we decide to give in to tyranny, let's say, for example, that just gives that tyranny more power and more permission to do what they want. And so the only way to break through that is to not comply. A simple example is I try and use cash as much as possible. I know that in the end that will be a feeble attempt, and that it will not change much. Maybe it'll delay the CBDCs slightly, or it has, but in the end, it's not going to stop it. We know where this ends, but if we're not making those choices ourselves and making a conscious choice, and then also spreading the word, like we're trying to do here, like I try to do with my family, as subtly as I can, to not be the black sheep, or but making those choices every day to fight against it. I mean, even in a small way, it's again that grasshopper, ant standing up against the grasshoppers.
What's funny is as you were talking about this, one of the things that really kind of caught me, using cash. It's funny because every time I use cash, people are like, they're a little weirded out when I hand them cash. They're like, what's this?
And they don't know how to make change.
They don't know how to make change. They don't know why I'm handing it to them. I'm like, it's an opportunity to educate them again. And so I've had conversations, and they're like, oh, well, I guess that does make sense. I'm like, has your card reader gone down anytime lately? And they're always like, well, yeah, all the time. Then what do? Well, we take cash. Well, it's the same thing now as it was back then, 20 minutes ago, 4 days ago. I get used to it. This still works when that doesn't, until they take it away.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned that, because last night my wife and I were we have one of those sleep number beds that you use the app and you put the number where it's supposed to go, and for some reason ours disconnected from the Wi-Fi and wouldn't connect. I literally was sitting there for like a half an hour, 45 minutes, trying to get my bed to connect to the app on my phone so that I could put it at the right number so my wife could go to sleep. And I was like, and I called the 800 number. Sure enough, they're closed at that. I'm like, finally, I got it to connect to the Bluetooth, not the Wi-Fi. And with the Bluetooth, I was able to set the bed back. And then this morning I wake up, first thing, I'm like, I'm going to have to call these guys. First thing, the Wi-Fi works again. So I'm like, well, maybe my prayer was answered. Thank you, God, for answering the prayer and connecting it to the Wi-Fi. But at the same time, I'm thinking I told my wife, I said, if we had a regular bed, we wouldn't have to worry about this. And she's like, I never even thought of that. And I'm like,
when we bought our sleep number, that's the main thing I worried about. It's a smart bed, right? And we have the actual remotes. We don't use our phone, the app, but absolutely, it's a little bit too much for me. It's a little too fragile. Just give me a memory foam bed. That's all I need.
I don't even want a memory foam bed. You know what they used for thousands of years before that?
Straw.
Burlap and straw and
right,
whatever you could use, anything.
And hammocks. And they'd run their the phrase sleep tight. You know what that means?
Wrap you up
the cords that ran across. They had to run
that netted cording that goes across the bottom of your bed to tighten it so that you have the proper hold for your bed, right? Support. It's like sleep tight. Don't let the bed bugs bite. All that other stuff.
Yeah, right? Because you got the freaking hay. You got the hay. You got sleeping on top of bed bugs.
So another thing that kind of comes out that we talked about this in this last year, and my brother who lives in Texas will appreciate this. I think he might be even listening, but in Texas, they had the Snowmageddon. I don't know if you remember that. It was towards the beginning of the year, the Snowmageddon, where it was so bad in Texas that the power went out. And it was interesting because not a lot of people had food storage and food items. So they rushed to the store. And when they got to the store, they stood in lines all wrapped around the store for hours. They stood in lines, did their shopping, got up to the register and tried to pay for it with their credit card or their debit card, only to remember or realize that power was out and they couldn't swipe their card. And so they had to go home and get cash. Well, nobody had cash. So they were stuck. And they're like, can you just whatever, let's make a deal. No, you don't just make a deal. That's where if you're smart, you've got $1,000 cash in your safe or somewhere hidden in your home that you can use. You've got gold backs, which is another thing we've maybe should talk about here pretty soon. Whatever you have something that can be used in a store situation if power goes out in your neighborhood, because power out at your home is one thing. You have generators, all that stuff, but power outage at the store, you can't swipe the card anymore. You got to be ready. That's another end of the world as we know it type scenario. And it was funny when I lived in California. It wasn't funny, actually. It was but it was funny. They were in California. They had a day or something the EBT cards went down, and it was crazy.
I remember
like they went nuts. And I'm like thinking to myself, holy cow, dude, I do not want to have to go out when this madness, if it happens again. And so I'm like, yeah, dude, I have cash, have that stuff on hand just in case. There's my brother. He is listening.
So have you guys read the New World series by G. Michael Hopf?
I think I have one of his books.
The first book. Everyone needs to read the first book because he talks about this very situation of the grid going down and running to the store and buying as much stuff as he can while he understood what was going on, the character in the book, and nobody else had caught on yet. He went and he had all this cash stashed in his home that he went down and he bought as much as he could while it was still available and while someone would still take the cash before they're like, cash is useless to me. What do I need? What do I need to survive? This cash is useless, right? That's like an end of the world scenario. But having cash on hand, having something tradable on hand, preferably, our current monetary terms, makes the most sense. Go to the store and get what you need. If you don't have everything you need now, take that cash whenever a disaster strikes and go trade it as fast as you can because it's not going to last long.
Yeah. Trey was just saying here that like we talk about in California, it gets down to 50, people put their coats on, it's freezing. When it gets up to 50, we take our coats, jackets off and say, oh man, it's so warm and nice. So
Right.
Yeah, for some people things are emergency, some they're not. In Florida, obviously, I think they're going to get hit with some of this cold, and I don't think the snow is going to make it down there, but it's definitely different especially if you're not prepared, and I don't know if they even have heaters in some parts of Florida, right? Or I know they didn't in some parts of Texas where they had the issue a couple of years ago. So yeah, it's different for everybody, depending on the level of
That's true.
preparedness.
There's a huge cold front. There's a huge cold front that's came down through the northeast.
Yeah, that freeze right now that's coming down is dropping
No
temperatures by 50 degrees in certain areas. Like, dude, I'm so glad that I'm prepared for those cold weather issues. Guys, layer up extra wool socks, have extra blankets around, put candles everywhere. Like your home heating solution, your furnace is going to be running at the max just to try to keep up. Your energy solutions are going to be depleting. Don't run anything excessive. Don't run anything extra. But if you can do candle heating and maybe stoke a fire in your house, if you've got a fireplace or a stove, not if you don't have one of those, don't stoke a fire. Like, use alternative heating methods to help keep the house a temperature so you're not destroying the really fragile grid that we're all on too.
Yeah, so I just took a few steps for my preparedness this week. Got myself a pigtail to wire directly into my harness so I can plug it right into my battery bank, which I've just got right here. So power goes out, I can switch the wiring over from the switch. There's a switch on the side of the furnace that turns it on and off. I disconnect that, wire it to my pigtail, plug that into my power bank. Furnace is up and running. So
as long as you've got enough battery bank to support it,
and then I can charge it with a generator, and hopefully it's just a short power outage, which we may experience that here in the U.S. in Utah as well.
See, I'm lucky,
although we're on the edge.
That owned this house before me already did that. So he's got a dual switch, a switch on the furnace like you have to have for code.
Okay.
Then he's also got a wall switch. But I'm like, why do you have a wall switch? Because you've got a pigtail already. It's like just unplug it from the wall and then plug it in anywhere else you want to.
That's cool.
So I'm like, but it's a double redundancy. It's kind of weird. I'm like, but he already has the pigtail for me. So I'm like, yes. We
That's
just
awesome.
need to be all of us. We just need to be a little more creative in our thought process.
Get it done now.
Thing.
Yeah, do it now before when it power goes out. Oh crap! I gotta figure this out. So grab an extension cord, cut it in half, and rig it to figure out how to plug it into your generator or whatever. Make the steps now. Take the steps now. It's a lot of peace of mind. I don't have, like you're saying, Paris. When the EBT went down, it was freaking riots. I don't want to be out in that. I don't have to go to the store. Yeah, if we ran out of milk, a big deal. I got powdered milk.
I think there's so many things. There's so many things going on in the world right now that we need to just. I think the biggest thing is stay educated. When I just, I'm reticent to say it, but Scott, I'm going to make a reference to Jordan Peterson. Sorry, he says
you're not in trouble.
Okay, all right, but he mentioned so many times some of the most dangerous men in the world aren't necessarily the men that can snap your neck, before you even know they were there. Although that's a very dangerous man. But some of the most dangerous men are those that are educated and articulate and can argue with facts, figures, and reason with clarity and present a message in such a way that it's convincing and it can be received and edify everyone who receives it. And to me, that's true. And that's something that we all need to do as preppers. We do need to learn skill sets just for survival and for hunting and for laying traps and things of that nature. But I think it's also very important for us to realize that we're in a war right now of words and ideas and thought processes. And if we can articulate truth, if we can articulate liberty, if we can articulate spiritual truths as well, like religious truths and spiritual truths, as much as like economic truth, like truth in general, if we can really just embrace, okay, what's true about economic principles? Are digital coins really going to be true? Like, no, it's gold. It's like gold and silver, right? People, what's true about, masculinity? We need men and women. They're different for a reason. We were born different for a reason. Like, what's true about the political things going on? Or should we segregate into groups and have group? No, that's not the truth. That's my whole thing. If you want to really save the world, get dangerously articulate, get dangerously educated, and become a force for good, where no matter who comes at you with whatever nonsense, you can say, listen to what I'm about to say about that. I have an argument for that. And it's going to be so well thought out, so articulated that you're just going to be dangerous. And that to me is where that's another skill set that I'm adding to my portfolio of skill sets.
Yeah. I think that's part of the agenda today is change the meaning of words. Something I mention all the time, and I'm a broken wheel, is that the difference between money and currency, right? Whenever I hear that, it's just like fingers on a chalkboard. Oh, money. No, it's not money. It's currency, right? So you're absolutely right, Paris. Words are very powerful, and using them correctly and knowing the correct meaning of words and the correct definitions, and not the manipulated, changed version of the current version of that word. That's how languages change over decades, over centuries or millennia. The English language several hundred years ago doesn't sound anything like it does now.
No, it doesn't. It's completely different. The way we talk, the way we interact, it's completely different. And if they've changed the language that much, look at how much they've changed our manners.
Yeah.
Our character, kindness, just civility is out the window. Like, people are so concerned with how they've been offended that it's more important to oppress somebody else's liberties than for them to remain offended.
Yeah.
And that's sadly a choice. And so, I don't know, my final words on Teotwawki is really what Shane said a little while ago. Our world is changing all the time. But your morals and your character don't have to.
Mm-hmm.
Those should remain constant, like the North Star, constant and unchanging, like our Father in heaven, who is the same yesterday, today, and forever. If we can maintain that and stay aligned with him, we're winning. Mm-hmm. When we're not aligned with him, we know we're losing.
Yeah, like I've mentioned a few times, is that we know the end, how this is going to end. Mm-hmm. We know who wins in the end. We just want to make sure we're on that side before then, right? And it depends on on your goals. I know my goals of how I want to get to that point. I'm not going to be the one that says, throws my hands up in the air, says, if I die, I die. Oh well, at least I'm doing the right thing. I'm going to go to heaven, whatever, right? That's not my attitude. My attitude is I'm going to get through this thing. Yeah, it's probably going to be hard. It's probably going to be a lot easier to just give up and die and go to heaven or whatever. And but I'm in it for learning something. And I want to learn something. I want to become there's someone I have in mind that I want to be. I'm not there yet. And I think the world changing is going to get me there. These events are going to teach me the things that I need to be to become that person that I want to be.
There's the law of opposition we read about in the Bible and the scriptures that talks about as the earth descends into darkness, or as the world and evil becomes more and more powerful, so too does the light have to become more powerful to oppose it. Mm-hmm. And I think that as the end of the world, if the end of the world as we know it is coming to fruition, and the darkness is going to be more prolific, what are we doing to bring the light in? And what are we doing to make sure that there's more light and goodness and wonder and love in the world, like real, true love, not this nonsense love that they're talking about and telling us that we have to do?
Again, another word they've changed.
Right? Yeah. And to love somebody is to tell them the truth. The truth shall set you free. Mm-hmm. And it's hard. The truth, the wicked taketh the truth to be hard. That's another scripture. Mm-hmm. And so if we can be that person, we will always be the ones that can be ready and be prepared and be where we need to be. I think when we arrive at heaven and, we're standing before Christ, and he's not going to say, did you stop all the bad things? He's not going to ask us that. I don't think. I think he says, no. Where did you stand What kind of person did you become? Did you strive to fight for righteousness and the light to be more prolific in the world, or did you fight for the other thing? Because the things that are written in scriptures, like, we're not going to stop them. But we can. Where did we stand? What did we fight for? What were our principles? What did we develop? What kind of character did we develop?
Or were you just lukewarm? Right?
Exactly. So we've been going for 45 minutes. Thanks everybody for being on. Utah Mike, Lamb Mike, Justin, Trey, Backroads, Garrett. Thank you guys all for being on with us tonight. And those of you who didn't make a comment or show up but you're listening and you're on today, because there's 11 people listening right now. We're really excited about that. Or 11 people on our live, I should say. So if you want to join our lives every week, we do it Wednesday, 6 o'clock ish. Central Standard Time or Central Mountain Time. Mountain Time. What time zone am I in right now?
Where are we? I don't know what we're doing.
Mountain Time. Sorry, Mountain Time, 6 o'clock ish, Wednesday nights, Mountain Time. That's 90+% of the time. We'll do it every once in a while. If we have a day or something weird's going on, we'll do it on a different day. But it's usually always around that 6 o'clock hour. So stay tuned. If you hit the on YouTube, if you hit the little notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live, and you can be on and make comments and interact with us. And we just have so much fun when we hear good comments, and we can post them up on the screen and let everybody participate that way as well. So go to our website, preppertalkradio.com, and go to our resource page. Join our email list that's there, so that you can. And by doing that, you'll download all of our free materials. We're going to be making some changes to the website. We're going to be making some changes in 2023 that are hopefully will give you more resources and more value. We're really hope we get to 1,000 subscribers quick, so we can give away this Jace case and give away the silver bar, the 5-ounce silver bar. So please help us get there as fast as possible. We really appreciate it, and we're so grateful for everything that we've been able to accomplish in 2022, and we look forward to an exciting 2023 and and beyond. So let's take this year and do our best with it, finish strong, and then start a new year 2023 really strong as well. So thank you so much. Stay ready minded. Remember that above all, it's God, family, and country. Thank you so much for listening, and have a great week.
See you guys.